Recently, I was on a plane ride going to one of my favorite places in the world, Disney World. And while I was on this ride, I sat next to a lady and we got into a really great religious conversation. But during this conversation, she asked me a question that I could not answer. She asked me, "How can you prove that Jesus was God? How can you be sure of this?" And I didn't know what to say. No arguments were coming to my mind at that moment. It was only after I got off the plane that I remembered the most popular argument for this question, for this debate, and it comes from C.S. Lewis's book, Mere Christianity. Today, we are going to be examining, could Jesus have actually been God? Everybody, thank you so much for coming back to Hard Questions with Elena. Today we have a really exciting topic for you guys, and that is examining the question of, could Jesus actually be God? This is a place that a lot of religions differ. Some people say he was a good prophet, others say he was just a good moral teacher. Others claim that he was deity. So today, we want to look at all those claims and come up with a logical conclusion about who he actually was. Most people believe that Jesus was a good moral teacher. He lived a good life, helped a lot of people, kind of very similar to Mother Teresa. However, there's some problems with that logic, and in order to point them out, we need to look at some of Jesus' actual words from the Bible. Listen to this.
He said to them, "But who do you say I am?" Simon Peter replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood have not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. I and the Father are one." The Jews picked up stones again to stone him. Jesus answered them, "I have shown you many good works from the Father. For which of them are you going to stone me?" The Jews answered him, "It is not for a good work that we are going to stone you, but for blasphemy, because you, being a man, make yourself God. If you are the Christ, tell us." But he said to them, "If I tell you, you will not believe. And if I ask you, you will not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man shall be seated at the right hand of the power of God." So they all said, "Are you the Son of God, then?" And he said to them, "You say that I am." Then they said, "What further testimony do we need? We have heard it ourselves from his own lips."
From those claims in the Bible, it's really evident to see that Jesus taught that he was the Son of God. Jesus teaching thousands of people that he was the Son of God really doesn't line up with him being a good moral teacher. If he truly wasn't God, he was convincing thousands of people that he was, which means that he was lying to thousands of people. And in my book, that doesn't qualify him as a good moral teacher. In fact, that qualifies him as a big liar and a horrible person. So we can kind of write that one off right away just by what he claimed. If he wasn't truly God, we don't want him telling people that he was God, because that's pretty bad. The argument that I want to present to you guys comes from a book called Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. This is one of my all-time favorite books, and I would highly recommend it as a good read for you guys that have some questions about the basics of Christianity and stuff like that. The argument that I'm going to be talking about is called the liar, lunatic, Lord argument. Pretty much what it says is that there are three possibilities for who Jesus could have been. Either he was a liar, he knew he was not the Son of God and was a horrible person trying to circulate lies about himself around. Or he was a lunatic. He was actually convinced that he was God's son, but he wasn't, he was just mentally unstable. Or the third argument saying that no, he actually was deity. So we're going to look at all three of those right now. Really quickly, before we look at these three possibilities, I want to share with you guys a quote from a man named Josephus. He was a historian who wrote a history of Jewish customs at around the same time that the Bible was being written. So basically what we can tell from his little snippet in his book about Jesus is that, one, Jesus actually lived, he actually died for what he was claiming, and that he appeared to be a good moral person. Let's take a look at that really quick.
At this time, there was a wise man who was called Jesus, and his conduct was good, and he was known to be virtuous. And many people from among the Jews and the other nations became his disciples. Pilate condemned him to be crucified and to die, and those who had become his disciples did not abandon his discipleship. They reported that he had appeared to them after his crucifixion and that he was alive. Accordingly, he was perhaps the Messiah, concerning whom the prophets have recounted wonders.
So basically, he just confirmed that Jesus appeared to be a good person, he actually died, and he actually lived. That's what we learned. Now let's jump into looking at, could he have been a horrible liar? The argument that Jesus was a liar really doesn't make sense for one reason, and that is because he died for his beliefs. If you were circulating a lie and someone came up and said, we're going to kill you for it, you would probably admit to lying and be like, hey, hold up, I was just lying. What's more, 11 of his closest friends also died for their beliefs. If Jesus had truly been lying, these would have been the ones in his inner circle who would have known if the whole thing was a hoax. The fact that they were also willing to die for his claims meant that he probably wasn't trying to trick everyone. Now, a skeptic might say, wait a minute, lots of other people from other religions have died for their beliefs in the past. What makes this validate Christianity more than it would validate, say, Islam, where lots of Muslims have been willing to be martyred? Well, there's one key difference that sets this apart. Jesus and his 11 disciples were the starters of the religion. If anyone was to know whether these claims were false, it would be them. However, the many Muslims who have died for their beliefs weren't the ones who started Islam. Muhammad didn't die for his beliefs. In my opinion, Jesus being a lunatic is actually the next most logical option. Claiming to be God is really outrageous, so maybe he was just not all there mentally. Maybe he was a little bit crazy. There's a few problems with this logic. The main one is that it's not historically supported. Remember that quote that we looked at from Josephus a little bit ago? Josephus described him as a wise man whose conduct was good and virtuous. If Jesus was a lunatic, I don't think that historians would be describing him in this way. In fact, there's many other non-biblical, non-religious sources like Josephus out there that also describe Jesus as a good person. He had thousands of people flocking to hear him teach and preach. He had disciples who lived with him for 3 years and traveled all around with him. If he was insane, you feel like some of these sane people would have picked up on that fact and realized it or wrote about it in their accounts of him, but nobody did. This leaves only one possibility left, that Jesus actually was who he claimed he was and was the Son of God. I know this is really hard to accept, especially if you're coming from a non-religious or atheist point of view, but please try to look at it logically and say, all of these other viewpoints just don't work. He couldn't have been a good moral teacher. He couldn't have been a liar, and being a lunatic really doesn't line up historically. I would encourage you, if you're looking for more information on this subject, to read C.S. Lewis's whole book, Mere Christianity. He talks a lot about this type of stuff in there. I know this is kind of a crazy video, and our conclusions at the end are a little bit stark, but that's what I have. That's why I believe in my innermost person that Jesus was the Son of God. He was deity on earth. As crazy and illogical as that sounds, that is the logical conclusion that I have been able to come to. If you guys enjoyed this video, and I really hope that you did, remember that you can go to our channel and check out all our other videos about hard questions that teenagers have and face. Also, please remember that you guys can write us an email. I'm super excited about this. Email your hard questions, your questions about religion, God, evolution, whatever no question is not a good one, at this email address right here, it's hardquestions.withelaina@gmail.com. And as always, I have to say, or else I'll be fired, please like, comment, and subscribe to this video, and follow me on Instagram. Thank you very much. See you guys next time. Bye.